بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أهلا بكم أبنائي وبناتي الطلاب في الفرقة الثانية في الانجليش سيكشن في دراستنا لاقتصاديات التجارة الخارجية. In your subject foreign trade economics, we are going this lecture to explain the foreign exchange rate determination. The determination of the exchange rate depends on foreign exchange system, followed by the country. In this respect, two main exchange rate systems can be identified, depending on the degree of government intervention in the foreign exchange market. Fixed exchange rate system. Under this system, the government intervenes through the central bank in fixing the exchange rate, which is called the bar value or official rate. The official exchange rate departs from the free market rate. This rate may be lower or higher than the equilibrium exchange rate. In this system, the central bank only determines the exchange rate for each country. And this system is a very important system and depends on the reserve for each country. In this slide, we are going to explain the relation between lira Egyptian and US dollars in the forex exchange market in Egypt. This slide explains the relation between them using the fixed exchange rate system. In this graph, you can see that there are three levels for the price: 0.25, 0.30 and 0.35. The price 0.30 refer to the case of equilibrium, but the price 0.25 refer to the case of devaluation. Devaluation is a decision of the central bank, and the price 0.35 is another decision for the central bank, and this value above the price of equilibrium is called the revaluation. So, if the price determined through the central bank intervention is above the price of equilibrium, it's called the revaluation. But if the price determined through the central bank intervention is below the price of equilibrium, which is 0.25, it's called the devaluation of the home currency. Now, after explaining the graph, we can define devaluation and revaluation. Devaluation is reducing the value of a currency in terms of other currencies by the central bank, as mentioned in the graph. For example, central banks decide to devaluate the home currency to reduce or to eliminate a balance of payments deficit. The another action for the central bank is revaluation. Revaluation is raising the value of a currency in terms of other currencies by the central bank. The another important system for the foreign exchange rate systems is the flexible or floating exchange rate system. Under this system, an exchange rate, which means the price of a currency, is determined without any government intervention. It's determined by the forces of demand and supply, and it's a very important exchange rate system. Now we are going to explain the flexible or floating exchange rate system using the graph. In this slide, as you see, we are going to explain the relation between the quantity of US dollars on the horizontal axis and the price of US dollars in terms of lira Egyptian, and it's expressed on the vertical axis. The relation between them using the supply and demand curves and the intersection point between them equal 16. It means that for 1 unit of US dollars you have to pay 16 units of lira Egyptian. This price is the price of equilibrium. The change of the supply level or the change of the demand level in this graph is a shift of the level of demand and a shift of the level of supply. The first change is the shift for the demand curve, and this shift lead the graph and lead the price to increase to the value of 18. The 18 price or the new price is the result of the increase in the demand level in the foreign exchange market for US dollars after floating exchange rate, and this may be an application for the case of Egypt after devaluation of the home currency in November 2016. But when the supply of US dollars increased, and we have in this graph another level of supply, the increase in the supply level leads to the new point of equilibrium between the new demand curve and the new supply curve. The new demand curve and the new supply curve intersection point determines the price of 15. It means that we have in this graph 3 levels of the price and 3 levels for the relation between US dollars and lira Egyptian. The first one is 16. This 16 refers to the intersection point between the initial supply curve and the initial demand curve. The level of 18, the new price, is the intersection point between the initial supply curve and the new demand curve. But after increases in the level of supply for the US currency, the new point of intersection and the new point of equilibrium after floating is 15. 15, the intersection point as mentioned before, the intersection point between the new supply curve and the new demand curve. After explaining the graph, now is the time to get the definition for both of depreciation and appreciation. Depreciation is defined as it is a fall in the value of a currency in terms of a foreign currency as a result of a decline in the demand for the currency or as its supply rises. For the previous graph, the depreciation for the home currency for lira Egyptian is 18. The another definition is appreciation. Appreciation is a rise in the value of a currency in terms of other currencies due to an increase in the demand for the currency or as its supply decreases. For the previous graph, the appreciation for the lira Egyptian equal 15. It is the value of 15. The demand for lira Egyptian or for Egyptian pound may rise for one or more of these reasons. The first one is a surplus in the current account. The surplus in the current account means that exports are greater than imports. It means that the revenue of hard currencies, the revenue of key currencies, the revenue of US dollars increases. As a result of the increases in the supply of US dollars, it means that our currency become better. The second reason, higher domestic interest rate. The higher domestic interest rate attract foreign investment to come to our country, and as a result the supply of US dollars increases. The third reason is the inflation rate. When the inflation rate in Egypt is lower than other countries, it encourages the other countries' investors to come to invest in Egypt, and as a result the supply of US dollars increases in Egypt. The fourth reason in this point is optimistic speculation. When the speculators find that the value of the home currency uh, is going to be better, then they have optimistic speculation and they are not going to escape from the home currency, and it's better for our currency and increase the demand for Egypt pound or lira Egyptian. The Egypt pound, on the other hand, will be depreciated when the supply of the pound rises because of one of or more of the following reasons. The first one, a deficit in the current account of the balance of payments. The second, lower domestic interest rates. The third, higher inflation rate. The fourth point is a pessimistic speculation for lira Egyptian. These reasons are very important for Egypt and for the most of developing countries, as the economic performance for the country is a very important determination for the exchange rate for this country, and so on. In this slide we are going to explain the relation between lira Egyptian and US dollars, as the quantity of lira Egyptian on the horizontal axis and the price of lira Egyptian in US dollars on the vertical axis. The intersection point between the initial supply curve and the initial demand curve determines the price, which equal 0.33. After the increase in the supply level and after the increases in supply of lira Egyptian, there is a new point of equilibrium, and the new price of equilibrium equal 0.25. This price refers to the case of depreciation of the home currency, and it is very important to understand the difference between depreciation and appreciation. Appreciation in this graph means that the value equal 0.50, but depreciation means that after the increase in the supply of lira Egyptian, the value of the home currency decreases, and so equal 0.25. It means that the one unit of lira Egyptian equal approximately a quarter, only 1/4 of US dollars. But if we have the appreciation of lira Egyptian, the value of 0.50, it means that the 1 unit of lira Egyptian, the value increases and equal approximately a half unit of US dollars. And it's very important to understand and recognize the difference between them. Now is the time to fill in the space using the four terminologies: devaluation, revaluation, appreciation, or depreciation. The answer of the previous lecture questions, I hope that you have tried yourself. The first one is the correct answer A, factor endowments. And the answer for the second questions is D, import substitutes are more capital intensive than US exports. For the third question, the correct answer is D, all of the above. وفي النهاية شكرا، وأتمنى أن يكون الموضوع سهل واضح بالنسبة لكل الطلاب والطالبات، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.